What's up, guys? It's Ethan here. Today we got a whole lot of news for you, like holy moly guacamole, extra cheese, and pepperoni. Just gonna get snap crackling right into it, ladies and gents. Let's go. Come on, come with me on an adventure.
The Battle of the Coral Sea was a 4-day naval battle fought between the Imperial Japanese Navy and the U.S. Naval and Air Forces. Starting on May 4th, 1942, immediately before the Japanese invaded Port Moresby and Tulagi. On the first day, U.S. Commander Frank Fletcher successfully bombs and sinks Japanese light carrier named Shoho, while the Japanese sink an American destroyer and heavily damage a fleet oiler. However, the Japanese take heavy aircraft losses when U.S. Wildcats intercept a strike on an American aircraft carrier, forcing strike leaders to cancel a raid mission. When nightfall comes, both sides suspend it, preparing for attacks on first light. The Americans and the Japanese both launched their strike aircraft, the American dive bombers hitting the Japanese Shoka and forcing the ship to withdraw from battle. Due to the previous damage, 3 eternal explosions rock the American Lexington carrier and start uncontrollable fires, resulting in the Americans having to blow up their own ship.
Both sides are kind of tired, and they just don't really feel like fighting anymore. So they both get up and they leave. Get out. The Japanese technically won a tactical victory due to the amount of destroyed units, but that's a stupid point. So the Americans won as usual. Yeah. Next up is the Battle of Midway. Midway was another naval battle occurring 6 months after Pearl Harbor and 1 month after the Coral Sea battle. Coming from the shadows, it's your boy, Frank Fletcher, and some other great generals. Because the American codebreakers were so smart, they figured out those freaking Japanese boys were going to throw some shade on Midway Atoll. So the U.S. Navy set up an ambush to ambush the Japanese ambush. It was like a total ambushception. Ambush was ambushed by an American ambush. The Japanese got totally bamboozled. We're talking about their jimmies getting all kinds of rustled, like all levels. Japanese bombers managed to hit Midway with a couple of bombs, but any other strike aircraft got shot down. An American strike on the carriers failed when fuel ran low on many fighters' escorts. A well-coordinated follow attack by the Americans, by a full American squadron, successfully sunk the Kaga Soryu carriers, leaving only one remaining, the Hiru. That was a good flow to it. They quickly launched 2 counterattacks within an hour, being the Yorktown carrier with 3 bombs and 2 torpedoes. The Japanese believed they had sunk the carrier when they had only damaged it. Neither side knew it, but at this point, the Americans had won. They landed 4 confirmed hits on Hiru. Having lost their last carrier, the Japanese were forced to withdraw or face a total butt spanking. To spin on the Americans, though, a Japanese submarine snuck past the line of destroyers and fatally damaged Yorktown with 2 torpedoes. It ended up sinking a destroyer as well. You know, a destroyer? It's a big boat. Anyway, see you soon. Next up is the Battle of Guadalcanal. Hey! The Guadalcanal campaign marked the very first major Allied offensive against the Japanese. It was characterized by large-scale naval battles, major land battles, and frequent aerial battles. The Americans landed a staggering 10,000 troops on this one island and successfully captured one of the Japanese airstrips and renamed it Henderson Field, just to show off how cool they are. The Americans established air superiority by using the Japanese airstrip as their own and dominated the skies with their warplanes. Allied aircraft may have ruled the skies, but they celebrated their victories too soon. Guadalcanal was paramount to turning the tides in the occupants' favor. Japan still had a strong navy and wasn't willing to give up such a critical vantage point so easily. They sent several warships and a transport convoy to take the island back. As with anything the Japanese do, it didn't work.
The Americans may have lost
A fair number of troops, but they succeeded in driving away the naval offense, and thus secured Guadalcanal for the remainder of the war.
Iwo Jima.
If you haven't picked up on it already, the Japanese get their butts kicked almost every single time. This happens because the Americans never ever lose. I'll give you an example right now. You see, the Americans, they were going to win from the beginning, because they always had way more things. They're just, like, this is Japan, this is America. Moving on, U.S. Marines moved to the island of Iwo Jima, controlled by the Japanese Imperial Army. The Japanese became lightly salted at that fact. So what resulted was the 5 weeks of what people consider the goriest, bloodiest, and most and fiercest battle of World War II
in the Pacific.
In the Pacific. Cut. The Marines had a bit of a tough time once they landed on the beaches, but were able to hold their positions until the naval construction battalions arrived, which bulldozed passages, which bulldozed packages, which bulldozed passages, which bulldozed passages, which bulldozed passages, which allowed Amtrak to proceed. Later, Americans were able to get hold on the southern tip of the Japanese airfield number 1, but weren't able to capture it until late in the invasion. The 28th Regiment secured more territory in the left sector of the island, and that was cool, I guess. At first, the 25th Marines weren't strong enough to defend against the Japanese, but that didn't really matter because they were a power of 900. And then 70,000 more guys came in, and they were like, yo. The Japanese tried charging them, but it didn't matter, because they were totally expecting it. So, all good. The beach fighting was the most savage. To get the battle over quickly, the Americans brought tanks with flamethrowers attached to them. Yes, they actually did that. They brought tanks with flamethrowers attached to them, and it worked really well. The Japanese were becoming more and more desperate. They were running out of food and supplies. Nighttime attacks became much more frequent. At this point, the Allies control the south end, and the Japanese hold strong defensive positions on the north end. The Americans switched out tactics by attacking without any artillery beforehand, and ended up killing many sleeping Japanese soldiers. One of the Japanese commanders ordered another charge in on the Americans. This was really dumb because it didn't work. It didn't work the first time, so why did they do it again? As a last-ditch effort, the highest-ranking Japanese soldier ordered a 300-man attack on airfield number 2. The Americans fought them off for an hour and a half, suffering heavy casualties, but defending the airfield. The island was officially declared secure on March 26, 1945. Finally. Okay, so ending the Battle of Iwo Jima. Oh, hey guys. Thanks for seeing you here. We still gotta talk about a whole lot more Pacific War, World War II themed stuff, like Kamikaze. Philippines, my boy MacArthur. And next up, Okinawa. Can't wait.
Whoa, Quaid! It's crazy seeing you here, man. What are you doing?
Oh, you know, I'm just going over my BC First Nations 12 textbook. The superior class with the superior teacher.
You see, Quaid, I can prove you wrong on that one. Mr. Frampton's great. He's such a good teacher. Teaches us all about World War II, making us do all the research ourselves. It's great. I love it. I'll prove you wrong. You want to learn all about Okinawa, one of the most kamikaze fights?
Sure, I guess. I never got to learn about World War II because the school system sucks.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to tell you all about it. Did you know the Battle of Okinawa was called Operation Iceberg?
Wow, that sounds pretty interesting. Tell me more.
You see, I would, but I don't really actually know why it's called that. Just look it up on your cellular device. Do it yourself.
I'll do that.
Good.
Great.
Great. Fantastic.
Operation Iceberg was a series of battles fought on the Japanese Ryukyu Islands, centered on the island of Okinawa. The battle lasted 82 days long, from the 1st of April to the 22nd of June. After a long campaign of island hopping, the Allies were approaching Japan and planned to use Okinawa, a large island only 555 kilometers away from mainland Japan, as a base of operations for the planned invasion of Honshu. The battle has been referred to as Typhoon of Steel in English, and Tatsuna Puna, Rain of Steel, or Tatsuna Tu, Violent Wind of Steel, in Japanese. The nicknames of this battle refer to the intensity and violence of the Japanese kamikaze attacks, and the sheer number of Allied ships and armored vehicles that assaulted the island.
Allied grave registration forces counted 110,071 dead bodies in total. 42,215 local civilians were killed, committed suicide, or went missing. This was a significant number of civilians when compared to the proportion of the estimated pre-war 300,000 total population.
The Allies won the battle!
After the battle, Okinawa provided a fleet anchorage, troop staging areas, and airfields in proximity to Japan in preparation for the planned invasion of Japan.
Wait a second. Did you get all that?
Huh?
So, Quaid, what'd you think of the Battle of Okinawa? It was pretty cool, right?
I guess it was pretty neat, Ethan. Thanks for sharing with me your socials knowledge.
Do you want to learn anything else? We're going to be talking about MacArthur next. Really cool guy.
No, I'm going home.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell Quaid about MacArthur. That's all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was tell Quaid about MacArthur!
What? I'm here to learn about MacArthur.
Yeah! Alright, Quaid, are you ready to learn about Douglas MacArthur?
Yeah.
Hey, Quaid, you totally want to learn about MacArthur, right?
Yeah.
So, this dude, Douglas MacArthur, my god, dude, he's such a total cool guy. We're talking, he was a general, he, smoked a pipe all the time. He looked like Bruce Willis, all the time. Here's a picture of Bruce Willis. Here's a picture of Douglas MacArthur. See? He was raised in a military family, graduated top of his class in 1903 in the United States Military Academy. So that's he's already got a pretty good start. Very, very privileged, very good life.
But what did he do after he graduated?
He became Chief of Staff for the 42nd Division in 1917 and leveled up to Brigadier General after working in the Western Front of World War I. From 1919 to 1922, he was the superintendent of the military academy, and in 1924 helped suppress the Philippine Scout Mutiny. I'm reading it off the script, I can't even pronounce words probably.
After that, he became the Major General, and it was pretty good. Then he evolved to Chief of Staff for the Army, and it was even more good.
Then he got tired, so he quit from the army for a while. Then he came back because like some guys wanted him to, and served as commander of the U.S. forces in the Far East.
Why am I here again?
That time kind of sucked because his Air Forces got like totally bamboozled. Did you get all that, Quaid?
Yes. Tell me more.
Well, like, there's like. So like next up, like after this, like we're talking about the Philippines. Like, do you want to talk about that?
Yes. That sounds very interesting. Go on.
This was like probably the most like vicious fighting in this whole gosh darn shindig. It was like
Okay, stop. This is very nice, but it's been a long day, and I want to go home. So, good luck on your adventure in Japan.
It's Philippines.
Quite out. Forgot my shoes.
Next up is the Japanese pay attempt to try and invade my homeland, the Philippines. It all started with like the Japanese launching this like huge invasion from sea from Formosa. Like that's like 200 miles north from the Philippines, which is like roughly 10,000 like no wait 109,331 of me. That's imagine me just 100,000. Just be scared. Defending forces outnumbered the Japanese 3-2. However, they were made up of non-combat experienced folk, National Guard, and constabulary and newly made Commonwealth units. Work with the struggle.
The Japanese used first-line troops at the outset of the campaign, concentrating forces in the first month, enabling a swift overrun of most of the Luzon. After that, they pretty much get bodied the rest of the Philippines battle. The Battle of Midway in 1942 had done a great deal of damage to Japan's carrier force, but even into 1944, Japan statistically had a larger carrier force than America. Despite America's huge military capability, the Japanese Navy still represented a threat to her, especially in America's desire to advance to the marinas. The Philippines Campaign of 1944 to 1945, also known as the Battle of the Philippines or the Liberation of the Philippines, was the American and Filipino campaign to defeat the Imperial Japanese forces that were currently occupying the Philippines.
Like I said before, the Japanese overran all of the Philippines in the first half of 1942.
The liberation of the Philippines commenced with ambiguous landings on the eastern Philippines of late on October 20th, 1944. United States and Philippine Commonwealth military forces were progressing in liberating territory and islands when the Japanese forces in the Philippines were ordered to surrender by Tokyo on August 15, 1945.
They were surrendering due to some spooky stuff that we will surely be learning about soon.
By the time this battle had ended, over 320,000 Japanese occupation troops on the Philippines had died. An American force of 300,000 that occupied the archipelago, around 15,000 died and 48,000 were wounded. The hardest hits were taken by the Philippines, which lost more than 5% of its total population.
So guys, what'd you think? Did you guys like that? Did you guys find that interesting? Screw you guys. We still gotta talk about what kamikazes are! Kamikaze, which means
divine wind. Officially known as
Tokubetsu Kogekitai.
meaning special attack. You could make the comparison that they were the original Suicide Squad, as they would fly pilot-guided missiles into enemy ships. During World War II, about 3,060 kamikaze pilots died, and 19% hit their mark. You're probably wondering, oh gee, how hard could it be to fly a plane into a boat? Well, you see, there are plenty of variables that could affect the percentages of a kamikaze pilot hitting their mark, such as just straight up nerves, miscalculations, and lots of them were not well-trained pilots. Starve. See, the Allies had a number of defensive techniques against the kamikaze attacks, such as the Big Blue Blanket, developed by John Thatch. Ya boy, John Thatch. He's right there. John Thatch. Ya boy. Let's not forget about how the Allies were a lot better skilled pilots, so they were able to shoot them down before they were even able to hit their mark. Let's not forget to mention that they bought the expansion pack, meaning they paid to win, meaning they had better aircrafts. So this one time, this American dude totally did a kamikaze attack because his plane was about to die. So it was super rad. It would happen in Midway too. Don't forget about that. Alright, guys, we've had a lot of fun today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did! Thanks for coming out, guys! I'm freezing my feet off! I hope that you guys really enjoyed it. I honestly do. If you didn't, then like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other channel, www.robloxsreallycool.com. Alright guys, so today we learned about a lot of stuff. We learned about the Japanese getting bodied by the Americans. Allied Force to be more specific.